right now. So let's kick things off. Great pre-coffee intro. Love that. We've got a bunch of guys on here, bunch of great dealers. I just want to say hello and good morning. Hope everybody is safe. Incredible times we're having, we all know, but I really appreciate you taking your time here. We have did a concerted effort on presenting Logitech today in a context that really works for the distributors that are part of the Snap AV network. And what I mean by that is Volutone and Custom Plus and AllNet and MRI. We are all part of a great network of brick and mortar pro stores. And I wanted to kind of put that out there because we're definitely teaming more together. I've been put in charge of the relationships between the vendors and putting together great content that's geared right for us right now. This hour is going to be all about Pike. You know exactly what we're talking to. You know the guys that are using distribution to benefit their businesses, and that's what this is all about. Now, we're going to go through questions. This is not necessarily an intro, but like I said, on the West Coast, we have not done a dealer-facing training with Logitech, so I'm really excited for this curriculum. Look for a part two. Pike and I promise to put something out there. And then finally, so I encourage your questions and so forth. I'll be watching the Q&A, Pike. The chat screen as well. So let's go through this hour. I want to point out today at 4 p.m. West Coast, I'm recording this, and you're going to get not only this recording emailed to you, you're going to get links to all the Logitech product. You're going to get links to all of the distributors that you're part of, whether it's MRI, right directly to the Logitech website portions of their websites. But we're going to include Pike's presentation as well. Okay, so you're going to get all the information. And I urge you guys later on at 4 o'clock, hey, rewatch it or pass it to your team. Perfect, okay? So that's what's in store for us from Gary from Volutone and all of the Snap AV distributors. We thank you guys so much. Hit your questions up. We know what to do. We're excited. Let's not waste any time. Pike, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Excellent. Well, pleasure being here. Very excited to do this first webinar with Volutone. Let me go ahead and share my screen before I start introducing myself here. So what we're going to do here is I got a slide deck. I got two monitors here, so I'll make sure I'm actually presenting. There we go. I'll make sure that everyone, can everyone see my slide deck there? We should be good.
Hasn't started yet, but I see you are starting to share sometimes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Give me one quick second, sorry. I installed a secondary monitor. This is what we'll do. We'll do desktop 2.
There you go.
Okay, is my slide deck up? There we go.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Excellent. All right, so welcome to the Harmony Pro Remote software webinar. Today we have a lot to cover. Now this slide deck will be accessible for you as well. It'll be a slightly modified one. I want to make sure that everyone, of course, has access to that as well. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through the slide deck that I have here. I'll make sure I have it up here. So, okay, there we go. So my name is Pike. And I started with Logitech way back in 2005 in our call center. So working on dealer line calls, such as, we did a remote for Monster way back in the day. We did 890s. It's something I really, really enjoyed because it really allowed me to kind of build my domain knowledge, really getting to know installers, how they use the product, the features that they like, the features that they would like, etc. So that's something I did for about 4 years, end up managing most of the team in the call center, allowing me to really share my domain knowledge with the staff. From there, I transitioned into QA. So a lot of software features that some of the Harmony installers are using today, I've worked on myself. Things like being able to copy over a configuration from one remote to another, which is great when you're upgrading a client, saving a lot of time. From there, I decided to also use my knowledge for data. I'm very passionate about our data, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we're going through this slide deck. The data is such a core value of this product because the data is kind of what kind of puts everything together. And our data works a little bit different than just an IR database. So it's something I'm very passionate about. I still work with the team, and it's something that I really enjoyed, within those years at Logitech. Now in 2016, we decided to launch the first Harmony Pro product for this channel, basically returning to this channel as we've seen more and more opportunities from installers wanting to start using Harmony as it's, as we're building our hub-based ecosystem. We've noticed that installers really started liking the features that we were building in, things from Bluetooth to a mobile app to basically controlling it from the cloud, etc. So there's a lot of these great features, but what we wanted to start doing is focusing more on this channel, making specific pro products. So that's basically what I do today. So what do I do today? I'm a trainer. I'm a QA guy for the Pro channel primarily. I work with the database team primarily for installers. I do a lot of installer support requests, basically training our agents. So we have a dedicated staff also that's taking dealer calls. So basically I get to wear all my hats. So that's enough about me. Let's go ahead and look at the agenda that we're covering today. So we're gonna first talk about the Harmony value proposition. So I know some of you may have done Harmony for a long time. I know that some in the audience may be brand new to Harmony. So I do want to just talk a little bit about the core values that we kind of bring for you as the installer and kind of how it all works. So we'll talk a little bit about the techie, geeky stuff in a kind of a nutshell. And, to some of you may have never known that we're using all this. It's just, it just works, right? That's what we hear a lot. But how does it really work? So we'll cover that a little bit. And then from there, we're going to look into, of course, the overview of the Harmony Pro 2400. And we're going to cover the Pro Portal and also the offsite management. And I'll do a little demo as well, because I'm a strong believer in seeing is believing. So we'll do a couple of little demos as we go through the slide decks. Slides are really important, but anytime I can do a little bit of a demo, I think that's very important in the webinar. So let's talk a little more about the Harmony remote value proposition. So basically, Harmony is an effortless macro builder backed by a smart device database. And it creates basically a fully functional remote in 30 minutes. That's what it comes down to. And what we're trying to do is save you time and money. So when you're doing a job, you can do multiple remotes in a day. You're not tied in for hours. You don't have to necessarily send someone that went to a specific university to do this training. You can quickly onboard new staff and get them to start installing remotes. So putting that all combined is really that value. And that value starts really with basically creating the best experience for your customer, which what everyone wants to do is just simply enjoy their content. May that be music or watching Netflix or TV, but they don't want to start doing it in a way that they have to use it like the original remote. No one wants to press 5 buttons to get to their content. They want to watch Netflix now. They want to watch TV now. They want to make sure that grandma can watch TV when when she's babysitting the kids. So what it comes down to, we want to make sure that we create these one-touch experiences. So you press one button, it just works. It turns on the TV, the AVR, the cable box, it sets all the inputs. All of that is done on the back end. And basically for you as the installer, to create these one-touch experiences, these macros that we refer to as activities, all that is required is basically to tell us, okay, these are the inputs and these are the devices. And with that, you're basically done. So really the setup that is required is you add the devices, you create the macros, create the favorites by basically giving the zip code, and we populate them based on the data that we have. And you're basically done. And then of course you can do some advanced customizations that we'll talk more on the next webinar. So how does it work? Can we just slap things together and build these macros? Well, there is a lot involved, but that involvement is done by our database team. Quite frankly, we feel it's our responsibility to make sure that these macros are functioning, and these macros rely on our data. So what does it mean? It means that we need to understand, okay, this is how long it takes for the TV to turn on. And that's specific to every single model may have a different version. The 2014 Samsung is different than a Samsung that you buy nowadays because they changed the chip, right? They're quicker. So all of these values is something that makes the Harmony kind of think, okay, I'm turning on these devices, I'm going to this activity, and that's kind of how it all comes together. So that's called smart state technology. And basically what it means is the Harmony kind of keeps track not in a two-way feedback, but in a one-way, okay, I've turned on these devices, and now if I go from watch TV to watch Xbox, I only need to turn on the Xbox and turn off the cable box and switch the input. And you don't have to create a complicated macro. We're just reusing those macros based on the state. So it all comes together as an engine, and that's driven by our data. And this is where our data is so important, because we get this feedback. If an installer calls our dealer support line and mentions, you know, this device is not in our database, or the projector is missing that second power command for powering it off, which again, we make sure that we do have that correctly. But if it's an older projector, maybe that data wasn't set at accurate, we make sure that from now on, the last 5 years, it goes through a very strict QA process so that doesn't slip through. That being said, if that data is inaccurate, the customer agent fixes it with the customer or installer and then flags the device to our team. So we fix it. So the next time they're on the job, they don't have to remake these changes to that device. It's constantly growing. It's also growing by us monitoring our database, which contains 8 million users, basically. We've been online since 2001. And then, of course, I myself actually still do store visits because I love working on data. There's a lot of quirky things that we may find with smart TVs. Back in 2014, you couldn't send HDMI 1 when you were in Netflix on certain smart TVs. Well, we fixed that in the script so the installer doesn't have to do that. So those are just some examples where we also do our own testing. And then, of course, we have that dedicated database team that ensures that it's all working successfully so that you can build the macros in 2 minutes. So that's basically the whole kind of summary on how it works. I think it's just important for everyone to understand that the value is really with our platform. It's our platform that makes it easy, quick to set up, that you can set up a product in 25 minutes that's just gonna work for your customer. And they press one button and they're enjoying their content. Now the product lineup, we have a lot of remotes, but I'm not gonna talk about remotes such as these, 650s and so forth that are IR only. And you'll see a little bit more as we go through the webinar why I'm kind of leaving those out. And it has to do a lot with remote management, for instance, and also the fact that the customer has to aim the remote, which wouldn't help with a closed cabinet solution, for instance. Also, a lot of these new devices, some of them don't have IR. So the hub-based products are really where it's at for the installer channel. It has a ton of benefits. And it doesn't even mean that your customer needs a Bluetooth device or smart home devices. Even just, not having to aim the remote and having it in a closed cabinet is a huge win. And of course, because the hub can be surfaced remotely, that's another win. You can much better service your customer, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Now, I've separated it in 2 sections, right? You see, we have the Companion and the Elite on the left, and then we have our Pro products. So you immediately see, of course, the mini blasters on the retail products is not something that we really suggest using as an installer, because if someone moves those little blasters, the device stops working. So what we've done with the Harmony Pro is we have the Precision IR kit where you can stick the emitters right on the devices so you don't have to worry about them moving around. And with the Pro 2400, we of course took that much further by actually giving you the ability to use any IR emitter, because we're using the standardized 3.5 ports. We provide 3 emitters. It has 6 ports, and you can use Xantec, Niles, all kinds of third-party IR emitters. So it gives you a lot more flexibility. So we're going to really dive into the Pro products and really talk about the differences there. Of course, the Pro products are going to have more and more features. I'm going to actually show a couple teasers, because right now we're actually working on focusing our firmware efforts on the Pro products, not on the Elite and the Companion, which those are the products that we really want to really not have sold in the CDA channel, because what we really want to do is kind of have you offer exclusive products where we can build more features that are important to you. Now we're going to, of course, get a lot more in detail when it comes to the Pro 2400, but just in general, the Pro remotes, so the Pro and the Pro 2400 are not available through Best Buy, not available through Amazon. They come with 2-year warranty opposed to 1. So that right there is a huge benefit to your customer right there. Now, RMA, that being said, it's just to give confidence to your customer. Our return rate in the CDA channel is far lower than the DIY channel. I guess a lot of times these return rates are based on user error. In the Pro channel through distribution, our return rate is 0.5% basically. And then a lot of times we still find, if I even get a remote shipped back to me, that it's actually not effective. So let's talk a little bit more about the Pro channel features and the features that we have on our Pro remotes. So one thing that we support with the Harmony Pro and Pro 2400 is a seamless experience to control your secondary zone and basically have that same audio connected on the patio speakers from the TV, for instance. And it's something that a customer can actually dynamically do. So you don't have to create separate activities like a watch TV and a watch TV with Zone 2 speakers. You can, however, the customer could also just, while they're watching TV, they can actually switch right on the remote, as you can see here. They can actually just tap on patio. And from there, it will automatically turn on the secondary zone and set it to the right input. And if they're done, and it's the same input, of course, as the TV. So this secondary zone is really trying to it's kind of like grouping speakers like with Sonos or Denon EOS. That's the kind of experience we want to build here. So as you can see, I tap it, and now it turns on the secondary zone. And if I don't want a secondary zone on, but I still want to watch TV, I can then basically unselect it. So it's a very easy to use feature. The customer doesn't need to understand it's Zone 2 or what input. It's just, we want to make it that it's an easy to use feature. Same thing that we offer for Sonos and EOS. So that's, again, exclusively only available through Pro and Pro 2400. Now, of course, you can also create separate activities. And what we tell installers, there's an advanced feature where you can tell the Harmony to just keep these devices on between activities. So you can create a watch TV and they can jump to the separate music activity on the patio, and it leaves the TV up and running. And if they want to control the TV again, they just switch back to the watch TV activity. That's something we cover in more advanced webinars where we kind of break the programming down a little bit more. Now here's a teaser. So we talked about working on features that we're not going to push on Elite. What's actually going to happen, the Harmony Pro is going to transition to the same firmware version as the Pro 2400. So the next version of the Pro 2400, what we've done is we're actually removing a couple of features on the remote. One of them is removing an option. Again, it's very buried, so we don't get a lot of complaints, but especially with a rental property, we don't want to make sure that no one can pick up the remote and go into the settings and change things like the delays or the inputs, or change how a port is assigned, or change the hub assignments to the different port and so forth. So all these features are going to be removed. So what's going to happen is, again, it is buried. You have to go on settings, and then you have to go into devices, and then from there you can make changes. So the whole device feature is going to be yanked out. All of that can be done through the programming through the mobile app, but we're removing it from the remote, basically. And then from the activities, we're no longer going to offer inputs. So as you can see here on the left, on the Elite, you'll have the ability to change inputs. That's no longer going to be offered on the Pro. So this is just an example of improvements that we're making to make this more a Pro-focused product. And there's a lot more to come. I just can't share that all with you yet, but this is coming with the next firmware release. And after that, there's going to be another firmware release that we're very excited to share with you, specifically for these Pro products. So let's talk about the Pro 2400 and the Pro remote. So the Pro 2400 and the Pro, they look the same. And you can't judge a book by its cover. There are some differences, and that's in the actual internals. So it has more memory. The Pro 2400 has more memory than the Pro. So it supports 30 devices over 15. It also has a different RF modulation, and that's what we'll talk a little bit more about. So it has a slightly altered RF frequency to extend the range between the remote and the hub. And we'll cover that when we dig into the hub a little bit more. So just for those of you who are new to the Harmony, so it's a full color touchscreen remote with a tilt sensor. You can even assign the IR to the remote as well, which you can do with some other control system. So it does have the IR on the remote. By default, we, again, prefer you using the hub. So that way you can do everything with the app as well if you're outside the home or upstairs. However, in some cases, you just can't get an IR emitter to the TV, or when we haven't done, IP for a certain manufacturer, we're looking into do more IP, but sometimes, you have to use IR and you can't run that emitter. So it's a great option that you can assign it on the remote right there. Then it has backlit buttons. It also has home control buttons and a help feature. And we'll cover that a little bit more. So the home control buttons are, it's a great way of basically simply controlling the lights with a press of a button. So I have a remote here, basically right here in my hand, and I'm gonna see if I can actually give you guys a little bit of a quick break from the slide deck. I got my remote here, so you can see there's dining room / living room, and I got the ceiling light. So if you can see here, I got these home control buttons, and you can also assign lights to plug. So basically here I can like long press it, I'll feel that haptic feedback, and it turns off the dining room lights. And on the other button, I've got this, for instance, I can do the ceiling lights. So I long press and it turns off the ceiling lights. And I give it a quick press and it turns them back on. It's the same thing with the dining room lights. So it's as simple as basically like long pressing a button. You'll feel that haptic feedback and it turns it off. So now it becomes very easy for people to control their smart home without really having to pull out a phone. It's great for a guest. It just makes things so much easier. And you can also do that for your home theater where one button just controls the lights around the TV. So it's a nice way of really getting the most out of your remote. So we're gonna cover more on the Pro 2400, but I wanna talk a little bit more about the hub. I'll bring up the slides here in a second, but since I got the camera up, I think it's a great opportunity to show the hub as well. So beginning with the back, I'm gonna actually show you, as you can see here, so it's got 6 dedicated IR ports, which are 3.5. It has the power connector right here, which is a micro USB, not the USB-C, because again, that just drives up the cost and it's just gonna be plugged in once. And better yet, you may not even have to use this because this is not just Ethernet, it's PoE and it's PoE plus. And then this is just the pairing button or the factory reset the unit. Now you see this is an antenna. Now most the assumption that we usually see is people assume this is a Wi-Fi antenna. It's actually not a Wi-Fi antenna. This is an antenna to increase the range between the remote and the hub. So if we look at our, let's call it the classic hub, so the hub that comes with the Harmony Pro or Elite, that RF frequency on that band it's a similar band as this, but it's basically designed to not really exceed anywhere between up to 50 feet, depending on environment. The average is usually 30, 20 feet, because a lot of times you have some interference. So it's really not designed to go very far from where the AV equipment is. Now, we all know that a lot of you may not put the AVs in the same room as the TV, right? A lot of times it's in a rack, it's a couple rooms further and so forth. So what we've done here is we've changed the RF modulation on the Pro 2400. So now you can get up to 100 feet. So it's using our proprietary 2.4 gigahertz RF system. So it doesn't rely on Wi-Fi signal strength. It operates on its own. It can actually change channels automatically between 3 different, so it always finds the best channel. So now you have up to 100 feet range. And then the antenna is an SMA antenna. So it can also be removed. So we're probably gonna get some questions, how long, what type of antenna. I'm gonna teach you how to fish. So I'm gonna actually show you where to find this, because we actually covered this on the Pro 2400 Getting Started article. And this is maybe, Gary can include that link in the email as well. So that's basically the antenna. So just coming back to the IR ports, funny story, I've had a couple installers that were new to Harmony that were not aware that this guy itself is a very big, powerful blaster. underneath here, if you would open this unit up, and I wish I had mine from the office, which is closed right now, there is 9 blasters. Like there's 2 here, 2 here, there's 2 on the outside, there's 2 positions there. It blasts everywhere. So you could maybe have it near a projector. You could actually wall mount it as well. So you can see here the keyhole slots, and that's where the MAC address is. But then this could actually function as a blaster as well. So another great feature. I'm gonna go ahead and return to my slide deck here.
And Pike, we have been getting some questions in. I don't want to interrupt the flow, but we will.
We can do some questions and take a small break between before we continue, just to make sure we're taking care of some questions.
Great. I've got Neil. What is the exact radio frequency? I believe he was referring to. Well, he doesn't say, but can you detail that a little bit more?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and what I want to do is actually I'm just going to share my desktop a little bit easier. Then that way I know everything. It's going to come up here. So there we go. You can see my browser just to make sure. Yep. So I could kind of jump started to the Pro portal, but even on Google, if we go to see Pro 2400. Let's see, even if I mistype it here, let's see here. So as you can see here, and I'll show you where you can actually much better search it. But you can see here's the Harmony Pro 2400 specification page. And the best way to search is, of course, through our own website. So this is the specification page where we kind of classify all the specs of the hub. I mentioned PoE, but it's also PoE plus. Let me just zoom in a little bit more. So you can see here's the RF frequency. So it's 2.4 gigahertz. It's using our proprietary standard. This is also what's in our keyboards and mice. The only thing is the Pro 2400 uses a slightly modified modulation of that kind of boosts that signal. So we also have the specs of the IR ports and the voltage and so forth. And just coming back to the antenna, so the antenna is an omnidirectional antenna. It's 50 ohms. Now on this article, we might change that. It doesn't show basically about extending the antenna. But if you search, I'm just gonna put it back to normal zoom. Again, it's all about teaching you how to fish. So once we get to the portal, which we'll definitely get to as well, on the portal's homepage, there is the link to the dealer support side. So this is a support side that I work with as well. This actually, I didn't even cover. Another hat that I carry is I work on a lot of content articles with our content writers based on feedback from installers and so forth. So if we do getting started, 2400, doesn't matter in which order, or Pro 2400 getting started, you'll see there it is, getting started with the Pro 2400. And this is actually, if you have a customer that asks a ton of questions, you all have different customers, some could care less, some want to know everything. You can share this, and it actually recognizes that this has to be installed by a professional installer, and some of these will actually cover the installer in this article, which is great. Now underneath here, there is the actual FAQ section where you can see what type of antenna can I use and how far can I extend it and so forth. So that's all covered. And it's pretty easy to do a signal test because basically if the remote is out of range, it will actually send a message will appear on the remote stating that it's basically out of range. And so hopefully that covers that question. You want to do a couple more, Gary?
We do. Really quick, you know, it came, Michael's asking, is the hub for the Elite and the Pro the same?
Not completely, because you don't have to. Okay, is a Mustang the same? No, because as soon as you look under the hood, it's a complete different beast, right? Now with the Pro and Pro 24, the Pro and the Elite, the hub, yes, the hardware is the same, the software is different, right? We're talking about multi-zone, we're talking about some other additional features that we're building out. There's gonna be more and more features that are gonna be exclusively available to the Pro and Pro 2400. So that firmware that's going to be developed will not be available for the Elite. So there is definitely a significant difference. We already talked about the multi-zone part, but there is more to come when it comes to differentiating the product between the two. And of course it comes, with the IR precision kit, which if the customer would have to buy that themselves with an Elite, that's not a $25 because it's kind of a custom IR kit. So, sorry, go ahead, Gary.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. Here, last question before we move on. Going back to your earlier presentation, is the light feature compatible with Z-Wave?
So Z-Wave, we don't have Z-Wave built in anymore. We had an extender that we discontinued. What we recommend, and I'll go through my slide deck a little bit more, is using SmartThings. So we have a great integration with SmartThings, which allows you to control Z-Wave and Zigbee devices. That's where we have an integration with.
Another interesting question. I'm a ham radio operator, and I'm concerned about RFI.
Well, again, Logitech makes most keyboards and mice across the globe on a global scale. This technology has been used for, I think over 10 years and has been perfected. So it has to, we have to be compliant in every continent on the globe to make sure that it doesn't interfere. So not something I would worry about.
All right, guys. Hey, let's keep rolling. Remember, we're not boxed into an hour. We're going to keep rolling. We've got well over 5 people on here. Remember, email at 4 o'clock is going to have the whole presentation, the recording, and plenty of links, as well as Pike's contact information. Pike, take it away.
All right, perfect. Let me just pause my screen and let's get back to the... I'm just going to move it back to the other screen here. So there we go. Yeah, and I just want to circle back on the Elite. So we want to grow this channel with you. The Elite is not going to help grow this channel. The Elite, basically when you buy an Elite, you're almost basically saying, you know what, I don't need dedicated hardware. I don't need dedicated features for this channel. I'm good with whatever Best Buy and Amazon sells, right? So, and of course, when you talk to your customer, talk about the differences and talk about the differences to come. We're going to do more features on these remotes. We're going to do a feature where the customer can't accidentally access devices on the remote. So again, that's not going to happen on Elite. Elite is a DIY product. It will never see some of these kind of advanced features that we're building out for you guys. So, and as we're seeing more and more demand for these Pro products, we can start adding more and more resources on things that are important to you, such as more IP control, more features on the mobile app to easily switch rooms, or perhaps more integrations and so forth. So just wanted to circle back. So yeah, so we covered the actual Harmony Pro 2400 hub. You can see the picture here is a little bit more clear, but it's always fun to kind of show it on camera as well. So let's talk about, exactly, we talked about Z-Wave. Let's talk about our integrations, our compatibility here. So we have IP integrations for Dish, Hopper, and Roku, any Roku device, also Roku TVs. The Roku TVs are not made by Roku, so those manufacturers did not enable power on, so we still have to use the IR on that. But for Roku's, like the Premieres, and a lot of the times you guys don't really do many Roku TVs, it's more like a Sony TV with perhaps a Roku Premiere or a Roku stick. That works great. Both of these devices are using IP. And then we have a great integration with HEOS and Sonos. And we're gonna do more for Sonos for this channel. And again, we're looking at improving that Sonos experience even more exclusively for the Pro and Pro 2400. So that's another little teaser that I kind of let slip. So also Bluetooth, some of these products you just can't control through IR, or we have a much better experience with Bluetooth. I'll talk a little bit more about Apple TV. I'm actually gonna do a cool little video demo on that experience that I'm going to upload on our Pro portal. But a lot of these products like the NVIDIA Shield Fire TV doesn't even have IR. And another little hobby project, which I think actually will be really nice for installers, I'm actually creating a specific Bluetooth profile to control Zoom with a Harmony remote. on the Mac and then switching it to a PC as well. So I'm going to basically allow it, if I'm using Zoom on my living room TV, I press one button and I'm in my meeting. So more to come on that. Now, of course, we also have integrations for home control. So we play really well with Lutron Raw 2 Select, which is a great system, and Caseta. And of course, we have an integration with Philips Hue and LifeX as well. And for shades, we can also do the Lutron line, of course, so any shades compatible with Raw 2 Select or Caseta will work, and Hunter Douglas as well. And then some of the other integrations that we have an integration with SmartThings, and that's a great platform for Z-Wave and Zigbee. And just to let you know, my Harmony remote right now here is tied into SmartThings, is controlling Z-Wave and Zigbee. It's tied into August. It's tied into Hue, LifeX. The lights that you saw were Philips Hue and Z-Wave. And then my bedroom is all using Raw 2 Select lights. So all of that can be tied into Harmony, and I can mix and match. So the group can be a combination of Lutron and Philips. So that's another great thing. You can create these groups on the Harmony remote and the app as well. And we have, of course, a great integration with Amazon and Google. I'm not going to say their names because some of you may have them in the background, and maybe like me, you forgot to mute them. So, and I hate when they don't listen well, so well, we won't do that. But what you can basically say, you can say, hey, so-and-so, turn on TV, turn on ESPN. Well, maybe not ESPN, there's no sports right now, a bit of a downer. So you can say maybe turn on the news. Well, that's maybe a little too depressing. You can actually also just have the kids have a nice TV time and just say, turn on cartoons. And that favorite friendly name will be associated with the Disney Channel or Nickelodeon Junior. It's a very easy way. You can just say that so kids can watch cartoons and you can get more work done at home. So, and there's of course other things like volume control, pause, play. So it's another great way. It's not going to replace the remote. You know, my wife's a nurse. If she's sleeping, I don't want to yell my voice. But if I'm doing the dishes and I want to watch the game, it's greater than, you know, instead of having to grab the remote, which is further away, or I don't want to use my greasy hands when I'm cooking, having that ability for voice. So it's a great companion to that whole system. The same with our Harmony app. So our Harmony app is free. You can customize it. It works on Android, iOS, on a tablet. As you can see here, we do TV favorites on there as well. And it all talks to the hub. So there is no brain in the phone. There is no brain in the remote. The remote is a communicator to the brain, which is the hub, and so is the app. So anytime you make a change, it's in sync. I've seen there's some control systems where it's not completely in sync. This is in sync, guys. If I use my phone, it will be reflected on my remote. If I use my voice, same thing. And basically you can have 4 phones connected actively to the same hub. Now that may create a fight during game night, but it can be done. So, and then of course you can actually switch between rooms as well, which we're looking at further improving that experience. Right now you have to do that through the menu. We're probably going to bring it a little bit closer for the user. And of course we also have favorites for Roku, as you can see here on the app and on the remote, and we have favorites for Sonos and then on Hios. So that's a great way of really utilizing these favorites. And all these favorites can also be done in customized activities. So you can, like with Roku, for instance, you can create a separate activity because we have those Roku favorites called Prime Video. And it will not just control the Roku, it will actually launch that favorite. And with, again, with what you see with, Sonos, I create a separate activity for dinner time that plays dinner jazz. So I don't have to group them. Harmony is going to do all that for you. So Harmony can dynamically group the Sonos speaker. So when I'm using Sonos, I can add the office and the patio on the fly, or I can create an activity where as soon as I hit that activity, like party time or cocktail hour, it's going to automatically group all the Sonos speakers together, set them to the volume that I would like, and play that favorite. It's a one-touch experience. Again, you can do, if you do that with the Sonos app, great, but you have to group them together. You have to select a favorite. You have to think. I don't want to think. I don't want to listen to music. I just want to hit cocktail hour and have a drink on the patio and unwind a bit, right? And those are the experiences. This is why Your customer is hiring you for the level of service. It's not just for selling products. You know, the money is really in the service, what you provide for the customer, these experiences that they would never be able to build themselves because they're not the expert, you are. Now, of course, with home control on that remote, you also have access to, like I've mentioned, your lights, your shades, your locks, and you'll have access to those groups, which can be a mix. Now, I know I'm going through this content quite fast, but we have a lot to cover and time is ticking. So again, this slide deck will be, it's actually a bigger version of this slide deck will be available on the Pro Portal. So, and also through the email, but we're going to encourage everyone to sign up for the Pro Portal, and we'll talk a little bit more why I want you to get started, even if you've never installed a remote or you're still on the fence of trying one. Starting with an account will definitely allow you to take an actual full simulator, which we'll talk a little bit more about. We're going to go to the portal very soon, but I want to kind of conclude the whole ecosystem, right? So here's an example, and this works really well. And actually, this example was recently done by an installer I spoke with. He replaced a $35,000 control system, 8 years old. Customer wanted 10 remotes in their house, and they didn't want to spend another $35,000, which is kind of funny because that customer spends 6 figures on their property tax because it's a $10 million home, but they wanted a system that was more affordable. I guess they want to spend their money elsewhere, but can still do everything that they want. Now, we are not a technical multi-room solution. We are a single room, but when it comes to the app can switch between the rooms. So it's a bit of a semi-room experience. And that was enough for the customer. As long as they can control all the Sonos speakers through the house and all their Lutron lighting, they're good. And that's the beauty of these remotes. All of them are tied into the same Sonos speakers and Lutron lights. So, and the mobile app allows you to switch back and forth. So it's a bit of, yes, it's single AV control, but when it comes to the smart home and the audio and lighting, these hubs can really control all of them, and the app can easily switch between rooms. So now let's get started with the Pro Portal. We have a lot to cover on the Pro Portal. It's gonna be a bit of a condensed version. What we're first gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and just quickly show this one slide I have on the Pro Portal. So first, actually 2 slides, sorry. First of all, the Pro Portal is compatible with any remote that we've manufactured kind of since 2010. So I just want to get that out of the way. We want you to sell Pro products, but if you've serviced customers in the past, you can add them. They could even be a 650 or a 700. They're all compatible. And you want to start doing the programming through the portal. And we'll talk about those benefits in a second. We're going to bring up the portal here in a second. So let me pause this slide deck right here. I'm gonna just see if I can just pause my screen here because I want to do a demo. So I just need a quick 30 seconds to get my demo up and running. So pardon me for the mess. You can see my screen there, Gary, just to confirm. I should have brought a separate computer to monitor.
See it.
Yep. So what you see is our experience room, which looks like a COVID disaster zone. Our office was shut down back in end of February. So to me, this is already completely normal. I kind of forgot the old normal. So that's how I embrace this, glass half full. So this is the experience room. This is where I used to do my webinars right there. It's very messy. The room was actually about to get stripped out for a complete new overhaul. Now, I wish I had some of the contractors unplugged a bunch of things, so I don't have a camera pointing completely to the TV, but the TV is there. You can see it, and you can actually even hear it. Now, what I want to show you is kind of remote access, right? So we're going to talk about the Pro Portal. We don't have an app yet for the Pro Portal, but what's important is you want to make sure that you do all the programming from the mobile app. You can do this on a tablet. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a phone. So what I've done is I've created a shortcut. So it's kind of almost like an app, and it goes right to pro.myharmony.com. And this is also where you will go to register for a Pro Portal account, which I will approve once the webinar is done. I'm going to look at any requests. So just go to pro.myharmony.com, and then you can request an account. So you can see here's the portal. But what we want to do is when we service our clients, so I'm going to click on clients, and you want to be able to service them. You want to use the app because the app allows you to service them remotely. So I can scroll through all the customers, or I can even search through. I can type in their name or their email. This was one I recently accessed, so you can see it brings it up. So these are all the remotes connected. So we're going to connect to the living room. So basically what this will do is the portal, this is the very important thing, the portal launches the app. You never want to launch the Harmony app on your own, because when you launch it on your own, it basically starts launching it as a consumer. Now that we're launching it from the portal, it actually knows that you're an installer, and that allows you to have full access to the account remotely. So basically what it's doing is it's basically then connecting. Oh, sorry, my screen just, what happened here? I just got to look at my screen. Bear with me for a second here. I think my air server dropped. I do apologize. Let me just quickly make sure I bring up my phone. If not, we might pause that demo. I'm running a third-party screen share from to restart my screen sharing here. Okay, and there we go. It should be coming up here. Yeah, okay. Probably in the background. Yeah, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we got my app up here. So can you see my screen, Gary?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So basically, so now that we're connecting, you can see it's in the Watch TV. So we connected to the remote unit. So if I basically switch Watch Netflix, it actually controls that hub that we have situated in our room there. So you can see now that the shades are going down and that the TV is actually switching to Netflix now. So this is a great way where you can service your customer remotely. Now, of course, you can see I'm actually controlling the Netflix there. Of course, there's a slight delay because it's actually showing it through a cloud camera. So there's always a small bit of latency. So this is for the controlling part, but this also allows you to remotely connect to the actual hub. So if the hub is online, you can actually then basically connect through your portal remotely. And that's something you can do through your app. And that's the benefit of having this on your phone, on your tablet. Again, a lot of times if you want to do courses, you can access the Pro Portal on your laptop or desktop. But for programming and for remote access, you want to utilize the Harmony app. The Harmony app is where we're building these experiences. And it's something you're going to need anyways. If you're doing Raw to Select or Sonos, those devices also require a mobile device to set it up. So as you can see here, I can now remotely manage this customer. So now maybe this customer called me and said, you know, Pike, everything's working great, but we decided to add Showtime and we don't have that favorite. Can you add that favorite? And I'm sure, of course I can. Let me just do this for you right now. So you can charge them a small convenience fee. Here are all the favorites. And these are the ones that the customer currently has. I can search or I could just scroll down. It's in numerical order. So if you know, maybe the customer can tell you it's this number, or you just type in the word Showtime, for instance. So you can see there's Showtime. I'm going to add Showtime, well, West Coast. As you can see, I've added the favorite. I hit next. And now it's basically saving the favorite. We're not going to do a starting channel. And now it's actually pushing that change right to the hub. And as soon as the customer grabs the remote, if the remote it wakes up, it's going to automatically get that latest sync from the actual hub. Now, for the sake of time, we're going to just continue back to our slides. I want to make sure that we cover as much as we can and get to your questions. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the share. But basically, it's basically syncing now, allowing us to make the changes offsite. And this is just one example. You can, of course, also make a change to an activity. There could be a change to a specific device. So all of that can be done right there. So here's the Pro Portal. This is now, of course, on my desktop. So I can add it on my desktop as well. I can view it on my desktop. And just for everyone who doesn't have an account, pro.myharmony.com, you request it here. And this is where you basically agree to the terms not to resell it on eBay and so forth. And from there, you can log in. So I want to quickly teach you guys how to fish because we have, only a couple minutes left. I want to get to your questions. What are the benefits of the portal? Well, one of the benefits you just saw is I can manage my clients. I have my clients here. I can actually manage my current clients. And then when I do a brand new setup, add new client, again, we want to do this not here on the desktop. We want to do that on a mobile device. Eventually, we're going to actually make a separate app for the Pro Portal. But for now, you can just bookmark that. Now, I can also, you may have an existing customer. So let's see, John R. Smith at email.com. Maybe you serviced this customer before you had a Pro Portal. You can import that customer. Okay, make sure I have the right customer. It does need to be a valid email account, of course. So here we go. This customer, I can import. Now, if you have the password, great. If you don't, you can hit request access and it will automatically send an email that the customer then can approve. Now, passwords with the portal, we really don't want you to manage passwords. When you add a brand new client, you don't actually have to set up a password. It's encrypted on the back end. It's never required. The only time when you want to do a password reset and have your customer handle that if you're going to tie it in with Alexa and Google. And those are the things that we cover more on a specific Pro Portal webinar. This webinar is a full mix of kind of what Harmony has to offer. So I'm jumping a little bit through this. One important thing, there's an admin section. So in the admin section, keep in mind, guys, if you have more than one person working for you, you don't want to request a portal for everyone. Basically, the senior admin requests an account and he will then invite you. So you can have multiple employees. You can even suspend an employee if this one was suspended because he was a contractor, and then you can basically reactivate him as well. So there's a lot there. Now, the last thing I want to cover before we really get into the questions is I'm all about wanting to teach you how to fish. Our e-learning platform. Before you can click on previous webinar videos and dealer best practices, once you've signed in, make sure you click on the e-learning tab. It's just going to ask for first and last name, and it's going to bring you to our learning portal. Now, we have these courses that really walk you through a full setup. If you've never installed a Harmony remote, what we've done is we've screen captured every step along the way. So if you maybe hire a new guy, he can take a full Harmony simulator, and it's like setting up
you should test your devices at some point to make sure they all get IR signals properly, especially if you're using.
So as you can see, this is where I left the course, and it's actually, this is a page that we actually now removed. So we're going to update this course because installers don't need this part. It's at the end. But as you can see, it's like basically going through a real setup. So this is a great course I highly recommend, even to installers that have done Harmony for many years. You might pick up a bunch of things that you weren't aware of. So these are courses, everyone can take them. Now in the dashboard, we have a resource section. So under the resources, it will show basically all the webinars. You can actually easily filter. So I can do, these are the webinar videos I've done in the past. And here are product images for your website. And then there's presentation. So the presentation today, this is a much larger one. I have it right here. It's a Google Doc. You can download it offline. The reason why it's a Google Doc is because I'm constantly improving this slide deck. So definitely recommend to check out our e-learning portal. We've talked about, this is kind of the way you want to set up the remotes moving forward. And why do you want to do this? Well, there's a couple reasons, right? The Harmony will then, the portal will launch the Harmony app in installer mode. You get that full remote access. You don't need to set up passwords, and you go through a dedicated Harmony installer flow. If you do not use the portal, you get all these, they're almost offensive, these pages. Like, why are we educating you when you've done maybe 50 Harmony remotes in the last couple of years, right? There is no need to show these pages for installers. This is why it's essential to use the portal. It's faster, it's quicker. And what about branding? When you set up the product through the portal, we're gonna brand your company name on any Harmony Pro or Pro 2400. So now the customer can refer you. It's great for customer retention. It also allows, if it's at a rental property, to maybe get some extra business. This is, again, a no-brainer why you want to do this through the portal. And then the customers, of course, automatically added. So last, before we then are going to dig into your questions, I just want to just give the full overview. So it's the Pro 2400 is a powerful yet effortless remote experience. Color touchscreen, motion sensor, backlit buttons, IR. We have an attractive price point with full control. We have basically a 1-minute macro creation system with a smart database system that we talked about, and we have the dealer portal. So let's, I'm gonna just bring up this slide. So this is my contact info, which I actually even keep in the slide deck, so you'll have it there. But I definitely wanna dig into your questions now. So what do we got, Gary?
Well, let's go to the Q&A. People have dropped into the chat box, but going into the Q&A, I think we got up to about 9:30.
Okay.
Which was Neil's question about the ham radio, if you're following with me, but I could just name a couple off right off the bat.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. I'm bringing up the Q&A right there. So after 9:30. Okay.
Neil had a question. Will you discuss remote access in this webinar and support for Lutron Radio Raw 2, which I think you kind of covered a little bit about that, yeah?
Yes and no, yeah. We have Raw 2 Select, but we don't have an integration yet with Raw 2. I just actually had a follow-up conversation with Neil from Lutron, who is kind of the head of engineering. It's definitely something we want to start looking at over time. The Raw 2 was built on a newer API, the Raw 2 Select. Raw 2 is in a transition stage for that. So we're evaluating if we do it now or wait when that's ready. We get it. You know, in previous webinars, I do a lot of polls. You know, I think the Raw 2 request is definitely in the top 3, you know, with Samsung IP as well. So it's definitely something we want to do. We don't support it as of yet, though.
Got it. Chris asked, if the hub loses internet connection, will it still pass commands from the remote to components via IR, Bluetooth, or IP?
That is a great question. And I actually, this is why I love these webinars, because it allows me to perfect my slides. And that's 5 bonus points right there, because that's something that actually should be covered in the webinar. So yeah, let me explain this a little bit more. I'm just gonna move the camera here. There we go. So the way it works is, yeah, if it's an API, we of course need that cloud connection. But for the remote and the hub can technically operate in a cottage. We have installers that program it and throw it in a cottage with no internet. That will work fine if it's in a home that does use connected devices. The Sony TV will still work as long as the network is up, the local network. That will be fine. Now, for anything with an API, of course, that requires to then recover that connection. I think over time, we may do a combination of both, where Lutron will build out the local connection a little bit more. But the AV devices, we're still going to turn on the TV and the cable box, the most important pieces, right? They won't be able to, stream their Roku. We can control the Roku locally, but that device is going to suffer from no internet as well. But yeah, great question. So it's not like it completely breaks the remote. Got it.
A couple of computer questions. Kevin asks, when you first set up the remote and hub, don't you have to plug it into this USB on your computer to set up the Wi-Fi?
No, that's very 1990s printer style, and that's how Harmony started with 745, the printer cable. No, the connection is still there for testing, but we have a mobile app, but you start with the portal. So you do the portal and have the Harmony app, and the Harmony app is gonna launch automatically in installer mode. So the hub basically connects to the mobile app through Bluetooth, and then they are paired, and that's a security. So some installers ask me, well, Pike, I'm using Ethernet. Why do I need Bluetooth? Well, every company gets hacked, right? Everyone is out for us, and we had to put encryption that you can't impersonate a Harmony. So that's all done through this little Bluetooth pairing. So when you first install the Harmony app, just like so many devices, you need to grant location service and Bluetooth control. And that allows us to kind of authenticate you as a user, and then you just put in the credentials. So speaking of installations, the other very, very important tip that I want to recommend, and this also has to do with COVID-19. We had to, mass produce these units before because we didn't know if the factory were going to close, right? So the problem is we constantly improve the firmware. Now that when you have to produce something really quick, you can't get a new qualified firmware in fast enough. So ideally, we don't want installers to do the setup before preloading the firmware. Now, we've done this so easy, I can't wait for more manufacturers to do this. I'm going to show you what you need to do to preload the Harmony firmware on the Pro 2400. Take it out of the box, connect an Ethernet connection to the hub that is, of course, live. Put the hub down, put the remote on the cradle, plug in the AC adapter for the remote, and walk away. Go have a coffee, wait for an hour, it's done. It automatically loads the firmware without having to create an account. Maybe one day smart TV manufacturers will start being smart about that. So it allows to have the latest software. So that's something I tell staff at Voluton too. Anytime when you sell the product, encourage them to preload the firmware. Because the newer firmware just allows you to have a better setup experience. So because we're constantly having to change that.
Is there any indication that the firmware has been downloaded and it's complete?
That's a great question. It will be with the next base firmware, but this base firmware doesn't show you, unfortunately. But the next factory run will actually have that. But you can trust me, if you just leave it there for an hour, it's good to go.
Maybe we can diagnose this question, another computer question. Why can't I use my laptop computer to do the remote setup anymore? I hate doing the setup on my phone.
Oh, a couple reasons. I hope one, to explain the remote access, the fact that we can actually directly communicate to the hub. If the hub is connected to a USB, it can't talk at the same time. There's a lot of reasons for that. The mobile app, and to that same person, if you do Sonos, if you do Lutron or Raw2 Select, Nest, there's so many products that have a mobile-only experience. You have to understand that we have to develop software for Windows, for Mac OS, for Android, for iOS. When I do QA, I got to test 4 platforms, and the desktop platform is a lot more restricted with firewalls and so forth. So what installers love when they start using it, I'm building the rack, I'm mounting a TV, I'm doing all these other jobs, but at the same time, I'm also setting up the Harmony. I can multitask. I can do this right here from my tablet. I have a keyboard. If it's a keyboard that's an issue, you can do that as well. If it's a larger screen, you can use a tablet. We're doing more and more for these mobile devices to really enrich that experience. And the desktop is just something that at this point, we don't want to focus the resources on that. I much rather focus the resource on doing a Raw2 integration.
Here's a quick Pro question, kind of from the consumer. If a customer launches Pro as a consumer,
yeah,
into installer features through proharmony.com.
So first of all, I approve the accounts. I reject a ton of accounts, and accounts that are questionable, I call them up and then reject them. Only installers have access to the Pro portal. So that's the one thing, and we might eventually make this only accessible through the Pro Portal. We're not there yet, but we will eventually be there. And again, the question was there. I just want to make sure that everyone is clear. You can register. It's pro.myharmony.com. Someone just asked, how do they get access? Just go to the website, register. I'm going to approve everyone after this webinar. So
okay, I'll have that link on my email.
Yeah, because in the request we can filter based on how the questions are answered if you're an installer or not, and when there's questions, I thoroughly investigate. So it's only available for the installer. So,
all right.
Elvin mentioned the benefit of the 2.4 communication versus wireless. I want to just time in that. Some wireless networks are great. Some installers, they own the network, they do a fantastic job, but we see a lot of some installers that don't, or they don't manage the network, or they don't have access to the network. So we still prefer having the remote run RF over Wi-Fi. We don't fully think that the world is completely ready for that as of yet. And that's why this is working well. This also works well if the network goes completely down as well, including the local connection. So that's kind of the reason why we're still using RF between the remote and hub. So,
got it. Thank you. Neil asking about Samsung and Yamaha IP support.
So, and the more pros we sell, the closer we'll get to that. I'm actually going to sign an NDA today for Samsung to further strengthen that relationship. And work on at least making sure that we get maybe additional IR commands. But I definitely, my goal is to get IP out this year. I can't make any promises, but it is definitely on our agenda. It's definitely something that we want to look at.
Jim had a programming question. I'll try to go through it. Can you program an activity to go directly to an app like Netflix on Apple TV? Or does the customer have to navigate through app from the homepage of Apple TV?
Love it. Let me show you a demo. So first, teach a man how to fish. So on the Pro Portal, so right now we, let me make sure I share my screen first quickly. This is kind of the demo video I was talking about. So right now, when you add an Apple TV as a consumer, you're still going to get IR. We might eventually transition that to Bluetooth. For installers, however, we have opened this up, and you can see on the Harmony Pro Portal, there's an actual tab about Apple TV. So you click on that banner, and it actually will show you how to add our Bluetooth version. Now, I just released a new version of this Bluetooth version. So this is basically how you add the Bluetooth. You add it as a Harmony manufacturer, so Harmony Pro, and that will get you full Bluetooth access. And not just that, let me give you a demo. Let me just go to my Apple TV. So we don't have discrete commands. Roku loves to play with everyone. Apple is a little bit harder to get into. We might eventually get there. A lot of times you need an MFI chip, yada, yada. But with Bluetooth and my passion for our database, I've been building advanced macros for 14 years. I do apologize for the lighting. Let's see what we can do here. I should have had my Apple TV in dark mode, but let's see here what we can do.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the live demo. I'm gonna go and select YouTube here, YouTube. So right here, it's gonna send home 2-second delay that will anchor it from the left. And then from there, it will navigate right to YouTube. And it is actually really fast. You barely notice it. And this is baked into the inputs. As long as you make sure that the Apple home button goes to the home screen, which you can set up. Let me now go to Prime Video. It's gonna send home, a 2-second delay, another home. Again, I've stress tested this macro for a month. And it took me about 4 hours in every single use case to kind of test that. So let me just actually hit Prime Video, because it needs to work from any condition. If you're 5 layers into the settings, or if you're streaming from Netflix and you want to go to Prime Video. So these are basically what I've done here, guys, is I've allowed the first row. So there's 5 apps, and basically when you add the device, it will say, row 1, app 2, and that will give you your Sling TV, for instance, depending on how you have it configured. And then from there, you can build these separate activities. So that's a great way of kind of getting to where the customer wants to be. So great question.
So cool. So cool. We actually had a dealer ask, what are the squiggly things on either side of your TV? That's such an invasive question, but hey.
No, this is great. Oh, so I've been working with Philips Hue, and this is the actual Philips Hue Sync, which I worked close with the actual developers, and I had to make discrete commands for you guys. Let me show you what happens when I put it on my fireplace. The lights dynamically will change based on the content of the source. They had this back in Europe. I'm actually from Europe, Ambilight in 2004, where the TV would basically adjust itself to the content. So even you don't see it, my couch light, the strip underneath will change based on the actual color. And you can create different zones. So you can see now it's blue. So it's dynamically changing the light. So that is the Philips HDMI U-Sync box. I might actually do a webinar with them later this summer. So I love it.
So
you can
cool.
turn it on and off, and it has a full Harmony integration.
So cool. So custom. I love it. All right. One last question before we get going. And guys, thank you guys so much. Make sure you scroll through these because you're not going to see this stuff on the slide deck. You're going to see this on the webinar review later on tonight. 4 p.m. West Coast, everyone's getting the email. If we install an MDU, can we copy and paste to program devices?
That's probably need a little bit more context on that. So maybe I share my email, and I'll put that in the chat, and then we can discuss that question a little bit more offline.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm putting my email in the chat. So excellent. All great questions, guys.
For sure. And obviously, Pike, you have access to the questions after the fact as well.
Yeah.
We're getting to be about 10:15. We could go on and on and on.
We can quickly do a couple more, depending
Sure.
on the retention and time. So, anonymous attendee. Yeah, I don't. So Bluetooth is transmitted from the hub and not the remote. So that way the remote doesn't drain its battery. So basically Tom is asking, I wanted the choice of going to the last show or main screen as you showed on the two buttons. So basically this macro can be modified, but it's just going to launch the app. Tom, that's something, again, I suggest my email, probably need a little bit more context in the use case, so we can take that offline for sure. So, oh, yeah, this is a good question. So Brian asked if the Pro 2400 always needs to be hardwired. No, the Pro 2400 also has the 2.4 gigahertz available to it as well. So you can do Ethernet or Wi-Fi. So great question. Okay. Yeah, and I think some of them we kind of covered. So yeah, thanks. Looks like people are enjoying the webinar. So yeah, we're excited to do more. It's always a great opportunity to kind of showcase. I know today was a real kind of condensed one. Gary and I will probably follow up with a more theme-specific webinar that will be in a little bit of different pace and allowing a little bit more for actual questions. Now, what I do a lot, what we'll do maybe the next time is we get a lot of questions about integrations. When do you do this? When do you do that? And quite frankly, I can't comment on that. But what we can do is what I want to do in my previous webinars. I basically create a list based on the common feedback and have people vote in a poll on what is the most important IP integration for you. That being said, on our dealer forum that I monitor, you can definitely share exactly why this is important or drop me an email. I share a lot of the feedback from you guys with our product owners as well. I'm part product owner / influencer. So it's definitely feedback we're always looking at. So excellent.
Well, great job, Pike. I do a lot of these, and today was excellent, man. You just start and you just go. So I love it, and I really look forward to presenting something else to you guys in July, diving deeper based off of your feedback. So look forward to that. Again, 4 o'clock today, West Coast. Email goes out with all the links. But I do want to add an extra special thanks from a national perspective, all our iDealers, all of our AllNet dealers, all of our custom dealers. We are all together and up to the minute data in our own way. So keep looking for our webinars. I've got Just Add Power coming up this Friday. Everything starts at 9 a.m. Got Yamaha next week, a little bit of commercial there. We got Ziggin coming up, and Oversea, the more advanced Oversea that we've just released is coming up on a 2-part series coming up as well. Sony after that, Atlona, Panamax, QSC. So look forward to my series all through June. I've got 10 of them. Boy, you did a great job, Pike. I love this.
I got to attend because I got my Sony TV with my Atlona system, well, not the Atlona system, the Arachne system. And of course, I'm using, the Snap Overseas, so which works great with our Pro 2400.
Well, you talk so much about, remote management. There's a lot of options, right? But, it is super important. And to start with a Wattbox or something like that and get part of that ecosystem is super important for all of us, and especially with Snap AV. But there are different avenues, as you discussed, on how to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So one last thing I want to leave you with. I've worked with a couple installers from New York that could not basically get to the customer's home because it was just off limits. So they set up the Pro 2400 from their home, shipped it to the customer, and then remotely did the rest with FaceTime or Zoom. There's again, we're talking about being smarter, be more creative, and it's a great way of servicing your customer. And then throwing in the overseas management system, and sky's the limit.
Absolutely. If there's one thing I could say, I love automation, and to me, the CI channel is all about that customization, and it really starts with automation and the remote. So it is still alive and well. I'm thrilled to death to have you guys part of the Volutone team as well, and as well as the Snap AV extended family. So with that, you guys, CI is alive and well. We're all doing better. Hope you guys stay safe out there. Pike, great job. Virtual hand clap for you, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Today. Thanks again, guys. We'll be back on Friday morning at 9 a.m. with Just Add Power. Thanks again, guys, to everybody from all of us. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Take care.